In today's video, I'll walk you through how you can easily perform bulk restores of multiple Kubernetes applications using Kasten. In this environment, we see that I have a single cluster with 3 different application namespaces being protected by Kasten. App 1 is a node-based Pacman application using a containerized MongoDB database to store high-score data. App 2 is an e-commerce app with a mix of MySQL, MongoDB, and RabbitMQ data services. And App 3 is a highly available Enterprise DB Postgres cluster. Each is being protected by a Kasten policy which will define our desired backup frequency, retention, and which remote repository will be used for exporting local backup data. In this case, an immutable S3 bucket which will prevent bad actors from modifying or deleting any of my backup data. The Kasten dashboard has always made it very simple to restore individual applications, allowing you to select your desired restore point for that app, target a specific namespace for recovery, optional advanced settings, and even excluding certain resources or resource types to perform a more granular restore. But beyond the restore of just a few applications, this process could become tedious and time-consuming. As Kasten is a fully Kubernetes native solution, one option would be to use a script to programmatically create restore action resources for all of your applications. But obviously, this is going to require some expertise and planning. And what if I need to roll my apps back right now? So before I show you the easy button, let's start by breaking some things. I'll wipe out my Pacman high scores, delete my catalog of socks for sale, and I'll completely remove the entire App3 namespace. Now that I'm in clear need of recovery, let's head back to my Kasten dashboard. I notice I'm now able to multi-select applications, so let's start with selecting apps 1 and 2, and I'll filter for removed apps to find app 3 now that that namespace is no longer present on the cluster. From my options menu, I now have a new option to restore all of those selected applications. By default, each application will be restored from the latest available restore point, but as you can see, I can also easily specify a range, in this case, to get my most recent backups prior to 6 a.m., or I can override with a manual restore point selection for each application. We see that I have similar configuration options to a standard restore. In this case, providing the option to modify the target namespaces of all of my selected apps. I also have the option to only restore my volume data. Both of these options might be leveraged when cloning workloads for development or test environments. In my scenario, I'll opt to overwrite my existing namespaced objects to ensure my resources like config maps are consistent with the application at the time of my backup. Finally, I have the ability to create or apply existing transforms to my selected apps, allowing changes to YAML manifests at the time of restore to support things like moving between different environments. With just a few clicks, I've launched my restore, and immediately I can see that this has provisioned separate restore actions for each of my apps. And like all Kasten APIs, we can see that this new batch restore is implemented as a Kubernetes CRD, making it possible to leverage this capability programmatically. Monitoring the pods in our app namespaces, we can see the existing workloads already being spun down, and Kasten's dynamic data mover pods provisioned to restore that volume data from our secure and immutable remote repository. And as that process completes, we see the restored workloads being scaled back up. So after just a few minutes, our batch restore is complete, and I can validate that my applications have been returned to a known good state. That feels a lot easier. So if you're in need of backup, DR, or application mobility for your Kubernetes workloads, visit the link on screen to learn how you can get started with Kasten for free today.